Speaking of auto racing, a big Memorial Day weekend, a lot of debuts, some numbers to break down. So I'm bringing in SBJ motorsports expert Adam Stern. Adam, thanks for jumping on.
Thank you.
Adam, you were at the Brickyard. It was Fox's debut with the Indianapolis 500. First off, how was the event live in Indianapolis?
Yeah, it was an incredible event. They had around 350,000 people out there. It was the biggest crowd they had had since the 100th running in 2016. This was the 109th running. And the civic pride in that city is really incredible. You got houses decorated. It's pretty much the start of summer in Indiana. And the Pacers are still in the playoffs, so there was a huge amount of buzz in town. So it was a really great event. And then for them to be able to get the ratings they got for this first event with Fox, seems like they're pretty delighted. So biggest viewership since 2008, coming in at 7 million viewers. So it seems like both sides are pretty happy with the start from the event on site and obviously the viewership as well.
Yeah, you talk about the size of that crowd. They were able to sell it out, able to lift that blackout in Indianapolis. Always helps having that local number to drive up the viewership number. But like you talked about, best since '08. How did fans, though, receive Fox's first Indianapolis 500 presentation?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I mean, there was always some things here and there that were issues. There was a rain delay to start. Then perhaps Fox slightly missed the green flag coming out of commercial, things like that. So certainly some first-time growing pains and kinks they got to work out. But I think in general, people were extremely impressed with how much Fox promoted this event. The two races this season that Fox has really promoted the heck out of IndyCar was the season opener and the Indy 500. And those are the two races that have outperformed from a ratings perspective. The other ones that Fox didn't promote quite as much, those have had a little bit more questionable ratings, not as strong of ratings. But when you look at the season opener at St. Petersburg, that outperformed. And then now we look at the Indy 500, not only the best since 2008, but only the third time since 1995 that they outrated the Daytona 500. Now, not 100% apples to apples, as these comparisons often are not, because Daytona had a long rain delay. Indy had a short rain delay. If Daytona didn't have that, they probably would have still outrated Indy, but nonetheless, the numbers are the numbers. And as a result, only the third time since 1995 that Indy beat Daytona. So from that perspective, everyone's got to be thrilled about it.
Speaking of NASCAR, they also had their own debut, the Coca-Cola 600 in our hometown of Charlotte. That was on Prime Video, the first NASCAR Cup Series race to ever exclusively stream. We'll get to the numbers, but what did viewers make of that presentation?
Oh my goodness. The sentiment of this race was off the charts. I'd love to see some data about the sentiment because it seemed like social media was just completely positive. From the booth to the fact that they had an hour and 15-minute post-race show, to how clear the picture was and the sound of the cars. NASCAR fans were ebullient about this. I mean, they were just overjoyed with what they were seeing. It seems like there's a little bit of tension and Fox fatigue to a certain degree with NASCAR fans. And so to what extent they were just looking for something else, it's hard to say for sure. But regardless, fans were extremely enthusiastic about the way they broadcasted it. And the early numbers are looking good for NASCAR. Around 2.6 million just off of the panel data. It's probably going to go up closer to 3 million once they include the big data. And so we know that NASCAR was looking for cable type numbers out of this. And from that regard, it looks like they fit right in there. So yeah, I think from what I'm hearing, Amazon Prime Video and NASCAR were extremely delighted with that performance.
Yeah, the number, like you said, around 2.6 million on the panel side. That is what a NASCAR Cup Series race is typically going to get on cable TV, whether it was on FS1 or on USA later in the season. Obviously, we don't know what those are going to get, but in past years. But down around 16% probably from what Fox, the broadcast network, drew last year. So you're losing a little bit of eyeballs. But I was impressed by the large number of people that stuck around for that post race, like you talked about. And it was something we had mentioned going into the race, that they're not married to, all right, what's coming up next on the dial. They were able to make it run long, that post-race show, well over an hour, giving the fans what they want.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that NASCAR fans have asked for a while. And so, yeah, I mean, we know that Prime Video is saying that for their 5 races, they're going to look to do 45 minutes in general. But there's so much that happened in this race that they ended up going an extra half hour, doing a full hour and 15 minutes. Just in terms of the on-track action, there's a lot of people saying that this might have been NASCAR's best race of the season so far. So kind of good timing, good luck for Prime. And yeah, it seems like a strong start.
And they're also, NASCAR, getting what they want, getting younger this race, around 6 years. The median age for a viewer around 6 years younger than what a typical NASCAR Cup Series race gets on linear TV. That's a number similar to what we see with what Amazon Prime Video does with Thursday Night Football compared to what an NFL game does on linear TV. So just like the NFL, NASCAR getting younger.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for NASCAR, as we know. I mean, their fan base is a little bit older. And so for them to be able to age down is huge. And we know that that NASCAR went into this deal with Prime Video feeling like the majority of their fans had Prime. Some people were skeptical of that, but their data, according to their internal data, showed that they felt like they were going to be able to do this successfully, and the early results showed that they were right.
Yeah, and also a shout out to the CW. Got another million or so viewers for that Xfinity Series race. 13 straight Xfinity Series races, over a million viewers. First time that they have done that in around 9 years. So impressive start there for the CW.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from NASCAR's perspective, they got to be delighted with the start of this media rights deal. I mean, again, a little bit of questions about the relationship with Fox right now and everything. Fox is kind of going all in on IndyCar, and so that's got some people in NASCAR a little bit nervous. But when you look at overall, the start with Prime, getting the numbers they're looking for, the CW deal, the way they kind of siphoned that off to a whole new network, and again, like you said, every race has been above a million. They've got to be pretty happy with the start there.
All right, and the other big race of Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure both of us would have liked to have been on a yacht outside Monaco looking at that race. That was for the likes of, I guess, CAA's Paul Danforth. Some of his colleagues gave him a little shout out for being on a yacht in Monaco during the Sports Business Awards last week. I thought it was a nice little nudge there. But that race on ESPN, not bad. The best live Monaco race that has been on U.S. airwaves. What do you make of it?
Yeah, and don't forget Jeff Bezos was there as well. So certainly, definitely they have exactly what they're looking for off the track. On the track, the race, of course, just is not as exciting as people are looking for these days. The qualifying is great, but nonetheless, even with the race not being a thriller, still got 2.3 million viewers, one of their strongest they've got. When you look at F1's reigns in the US in recent years, people have been wondering why they haven't been able to break through to that 2 million range more often. That's been one of the issues with their ratings plateauing a little bit here. So, despite the fact that the race was relatively uneventful, to still get, the third largest viewership in US history for live races, I think ESPN and F1 will be quite happy about that. And we'll see what happens with the media rights. We know they're in discussions right now. Will ESPN be able to retain a slice? Will this help encourage them to want to retain a slice? We'll see. But certainly, I think breaking through to kind of more of the 2.0 million range on a regular basis is something that F1 needs to do.
Well, IndyCar, NASCAR, F1, any motorsport, Adam Stern, our motorsports expert, you're going to continue to have your eye on it. Appreciate you jumping on the SBJ Sports Media Pod.
You got it.